Nania.
We're actually having a technical difficulty at the moment.
A technical challenge?
A challenge. Oh, of course.
All right. What would you like to do in the meantime?
Explore.
What?
More about animals and nature.
All right. We will tell you this. We will give you a preview of coming attractions.
Okay.
Would you like that?
Uh-huh.
Not right now. We'll let you know when, but we will be designing and creating something called the Bashar Explorers Club. And this will be for the purpose of exploring many things, not only the idea of your connections to nature, but the idea of your connections to many other extraterrestrial beings. That will be coming down the line.
That's exciting.
Yes, it is.
So how are things on your end?
Sitting pretty.
It's good to hear that. How are things very cosmic there?
Do you have to ask?
Like when you see the world like you do right now.
Your world?
Like the experience you're having right this moment.
Yes.
What are you seeing?
We are seeing a matrix of interacting lines of energy patterns that represent each and every one of you individually and all of you together collectively, plus the energy patterns that represent your higher selves, the energy patterns that connect you to your oversouls, the energy patterns that connect you to different aspects in nature, the energy patterns that connect you to different parallel reality versions of yourself, the energy patterns that connect you through the idea you call space and time to other experiences in other dimensions. All those energy patterns and what needs to stand out at any given moment stands out in a way that represents a kind of language to us that we have learned to read. We will demonstrate more clearly, again, some point in the future, how to read that language to you.
And am I correct in thinking that that's just one portion of your consciousness?
Yes. Many of you really may think of us in what you call a classic science fiction sense as a bunch of aliens walking around on a planet and being in spaceships. You actually have no idea what our world is actually like. We are very multidimensional and it cannot really be described to you. What we just gave you is the very barest hint of how we experience our reality. We are constantly walking through doorways of multiple parallel realities as par for the course. We are literally moving, consciously moving through a variety, consciously navigating through a variety of parallel reality streams as our nature, as the way we experience reality. So it would be like, perhaps, a closest analogy, a very simplistic analogy, would be to think of what had happened to you 10 years ago. What happened to you the day after that, the day after that, the day after that, the day after that, for the last 10 years, all the way up to the present, and have that all overlap every day. All of it overlapping every day, so that you're perceiving everything from every day that happened for the last 10 years, all at once, as you walk through life, interacting with different versions of yourself, different beings that connected with you at different times, for different purposes, but all at once. Is this making some sense in translation? So it's like swimming through an endless sea of probabilities that are actually realizing themselves in what appear to be physical experiences, actually walking through the dream. Does this make sense? All right. It will take you a while to get used to something like that. And even when the time comes when you may set foot upon our planet to visit, you will only be seeing at first a fraction of the skin of our world. When you go deeper as a Sasani, you will see the depths to which all worlds really go. And you will see the nature of what you're actually walking through all the time, because you're doing it too. It's just that only a fragment of it is conscious to you. 99.999% of what is actually around you is invisible to you. But you're expanding your consciousness and allowing more of it to become visible. Does that help?
Yes, this realization, I think, is one of the great shockers, because everybody was thinking, oh yeah, there's a bunch of aliens on another planet and they're going to come. And
that is one aspect of us that you can perceive, but it's not all that we are.
It seems like the reality is, the more that your consciousness expands and you become aware of multiple dimensions, other beings in other dimensions and things like that, this is truly the contact experience, the growth of consciousness into dimensions that initially at the level we were understanding space contact at, it didn't really include that dimension of the experience.
Yes, but now you're beginning to understand that extraterrestrial contact is really extra dimensional contact as well. It's extra consciousness contact. It happens on multiple levels of dimensionality, not just the physical surface.
That's really exciting. That's just great that the universe works this way. It is
such very multi-layered, and you can sample as many slices of it as you wish. Are your technical challenges now complete?
Well, yes, they are.
All right.
So thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you.
Hello.
And a you good day.
Thank you. That was incredible what you were just talking about.
Oh, it's quite credible.
I've had a couple experiences, just slight, where while reading some Jane Roberts books years ago, I had these many layered experiences where I felt everything was the littlest edge of what you spoke of. So if I go back to that, I can
maybe
acclimate and expand further. And
maybe, yes. It doesn't have to necessarily feel identical to that moment. But in remembering that moment, you can know that you're in the proper state to continue to expand from there.
Right, because when I was there, I created it where I was just relaxing and allowing, and it was all future, past, all was going on. But at other times it feels, or it can feel, like a loss of control. There's so much.
We understand it can feel that way, but it isn't that you're out of control. It's just that you're in unfamiliar territory. You can get used to it.
Just breathe and relax and laugh.
Open up and trust that there is
their family if they come out, or they could even be in a country where they could be put to death. How do they deal with that kind of a situation?
Again, no one is saying that you have to reveal the secret. Obviously, if you believe that the revelation of a secret is going to possibly put your life in danger, we are not talking about that.
So they can continue the behavior without feeling that if they want to have contact, that could be, they could be exposed in a situation that would be particularly destructive or dangerous for them?
Yes, they don't have to reveal the secret. However, we would suggest that they allow themselves to follow their passion and their synchronicity in such a manner that it may remove them from the dangerous situation, so that they could possibly be comfortable in revealing secrets of that nature in a new environment where their life and their situation would not be put in danger. So it's about changing the environment that you're in to be more vibrationally compatible with being open about those kinds of things. If you are comfortable doing so, then follow the synchronicity that may lead you to those places where you don't have to worry that the revelation of that kind of a secret of your own true nature would actually put you in danger. But in the situation that you may already be in, no one is again saying that you actually have to reveal the secret. Again, it's about changing the behavior that is causing the consequential secret that would be truly disruptive to others who are not necessarily themselves negatively oriented. So we are not talking about appeasing people who may have fearful reactions to things. We are simply talking about putting yourself in a situation where you may feel more comfortable allowing such a secret to be known.
Okay, and then another person did something illegal when they were younger and they were never caught, but they seem to carry with them the feeling that this secret's going to be revealed or it's still in their consciousness. What kind of advice can you give them about handling something like that?
Well, since they have, we assume, discontinued the behavior of illegality, the idea of their guilt is simply that they have caught themselves. So in other words, they are trying to punish themselves when no one exterior to them caught them and punished them. So they are trying to punish themselves by feeling guilty about it for an extended period of time. But we would say your sentence has been served. You have already been penalized by the fear and the guilt that you've been feeling for so long. So you can release yourself and forgive yourself and be free from the sentence you have imposed upon yourself, as long as you know that doing that illegal behavior no longer serves you. Then you have learned your lesson, and that allows you to, as you say, get out of jail free.
And then would the desire to correctly solve a dark secret be considered selfish if, for example, you were the only one who could do so decades later? It's having to do with, I guess, an ancestral secret. And if the person involved were a family member, could this desire or lack of desire have a negative impact on future generations?
It could, but again, you have to assess for yourself what the value is in revealing that kind of a secret. As we have already said, if this is something that can truly benefit people, it is something that can be revealed in a positive way, a constructive way, so that lessons are learned and people can move on in their lives in a positive way. That's one thing. But again, if you find that the revelation of this secret would actually cause harm to people who, in and of their own selves, have done nothing negative, that's another issue. If you're talking about revealing the behavior of someone that has done something illegal, that's yet again another issue. Because again, if you know something about someone who has committed a crime in your society, then holding on to that information may itself be considered illegal in your society. So you have to weigh all the factors of exactly what the secret is that you're talking about. Since we cannot have an extended conversation with this particular questioner, then it has to be left up to the questioner to evaluate exactly what kind of a secret and what the consequences would be in the revelation of that secret, or whether they can simply move on if they're not the one generating the negative behavior.
Okay, and this is a question about the formula.
Yes.
In the formula, you talk about following our most exciting path as often as possible without expectation of outcome. Can I gently say that that's easier said than done? You've nearly perfected evolved states of being, but we as humans struggle with this for many reasons, mainly because of all the shoulds we face. We need to make money to pay bills, and many of us are in jobs that don't bring us joy or excitement. Daily chores aren't thrilling, and relationship struggles make it difficult to find passion. Are you suggesting we abandon societal norms and just do whatever excites us in the moment? I'm struggling with the formula and would like to know how to make it practical and effective. Your version feels a bit unrealistic given our societal constraints. I'd love to drop all the shoulds, but I'm fairly certain I'd be evicted by the end of the month.
As you humans say, there is a lot to unpack in that question because there are several different directions that that question took that need to individually be addressed. First of all, no, we are not saying that you should drop everything. As we have often and always said, if you have a belief system that you cannot be supported by your passion, then you have to honor your beliefs and continue to do whatever it is you are doing that you believe is necessary to support you in life, even if it's not representative of your passion, until such time as you learn that your passion can support you by at least giving it an opportunity to prove that to you by acting on your passion as often as you possibly can. The second thing to unpack in that question is you are defining a lot of things that you could find more exciting ways to do, but defining them in ways that are not exciting for you. When you talk about the idea of, oh, chores that have to be done in physical reality, you're coming in with the idea of a negative definition of those things when there may actually be ways to do many of those things that are truly necessary for physical survival in ways that are more vibrationally compatible with who you are and would actually be more fun, more enjoyable. So you have to use your creative imagination to figure out what the right way is for you to do the things that you believe are absolutely necessary for you to thrive in physical reality. Again, you have to rearrange some of your definitions, and you have to expand your definition of what support you actually need in any given situation or any given moment, because it's not always the kind of support that you think you need, especially with regard to the idea that you are now referring to of being evicted by not paying your rent, which means in your mind, I need money. But again, even though that may generally be true in your society, there are still ways to mitigate some of that through communication with those to whom you may owe the money, because again, communication is one form of abundance, and sometimes just communicating with that person and letting them know what your circumstance and situation is. In other words, including them in the process that you may be going through that finds you coming up a little short may actually give them the opportunity to be generous and say, all right, I'll give you extra time, or you don't have to pay me right now, or all sorts of other things that they may come up with that you may not have considered possible, simply because you're not even willing to investigate that idea with your imagination and definitions being lower than they could be. So again, it's all about the circumstances, the situations, and what definitions you give them. We are not giving you anything that is actually unrealistic. These things do work. And the very fact that you opened the question with the concept that it is unrealistic or that it is difficult for you says a lot about what you believe to be true. And that's fine if you want to hold on to those beliefs. All we are suggesting is that at least you give yourself an opportunity, when possible, in your schedule to make time to act on your passion to the point where over time, at whatever pace you're comfortable, you can allow your passion to prove to you that it can support you in many more ways, even better than what you're doing now. Don't necessarily give up the things you're doing if you don't believe that your passion can support you. Of course not. So the idea is for you to determine the pace that you're comfortable with, but give yourself an opportunity to let your passion prove to you that it can support you. At least go that far.
Okay. Now this person is asking, saying that they used to be happy and excited in life. I suddenly lost my excitement about everything. I lost the joy inside me without understanding why. And despite extensive personal development and trying various permission slips, they still feel joyless. I've lost the hope that this will change. I can't pinpoint any negative beliefs. I feel confident, worthy, and deserving of joy. I usually do what I feel like doing in the moment, but it doesn't feel like true excitement. What can I do to reconnect with authentic joy and excitement?
Well, you may not have negative beliefs to let go of, but you may have erroneous definitions to let go of, because it sounds like you have a certain expectation of how you're supposed to feel doing certain things that you choose to do. There is nothing that says that you have to be jumping up and down all the time with absolute giddiness to experience the idea of acting on your passion. Do not misunderstand the definition of those words. A state of absolute calm and absolute peace can also be representative of the idea of acting on your passion. So the first thing you might want to do is let go of the way you think, let go of the way you expect you're supposed to feel by choosing to do the things that you do choose to do, and just see if you're entering a new state, a new level of appreciation and gratitude and peace and calm and tranquility and contentment, which in and of themselves can be variations of the feeling that you could associate with acting on your passion. It doesn't mean you have to be walking down the street and laughing your head off or being on fire all the time.
Thank you. Okay, this one is, how do you handle waiting for an uncontrollable outcome, especially when others pressure you for answers or plans depend on it? How can you influence such a decision indirectly and stay positive when action isn't possible?
Well, first of all, we will have to assume that by your term uncontrollable outcome, that you may be talking about the idea of dropping insistence. That isn't clear in your question. Nevertheless, if you have developed a plan for something to theoretically occur, remember that all plans need to be adaptable. In other words, a plan should contain within it the ability to change the plan where necessary, to go with the flow, to go with the currents, to go with what happens, with what changes. So there needs to be some flexibility in there. And then you may find there are things you can act on if you're not too rigid about exactly the way you think the plan should proceed. So you might need a little bit more flexibility in what you call a plan that can give you more options of what outcomes could happen that could still serve the same purpose, that could still feel like you have arrived at the conclusion that is necessary for everyone concerned.
So maybe another example of that would be a situation where someone's child was taken hostage and they're just waiting and waiting for word or that the person would be released. So they would feel very much like it was an uncontrollable situation and they have tremendous emotional
If that's
investment.
what this person meant by uncontrollable.
I'm using that as an example.
You're using it as a different example.
Yes, it can be. Yes.
All right. So what are you asking?
How do people under those kinds of stressful situations where the outcome is of such great import and at the same time they don't have control, what is the state of being to choose to ride that kind of a uncontrollable outcome type thing?
Well, the first step would be to understand that even though it may seem you have no control over the situation, you always have control over your state of being, no matter what's going on. Remember, it's not about what happens, it's about what you do with what happens. That's the main principle. So staying in a state of being, I'm not saying you have to be happy that someone has been abducted, but staying in a stable state, a potentially positive state, or at the very least a neutral state, can allow you to be able to observe synchronicities that will come to you that can lead to solutions that would be beneficial for all. So you have to learn the lessons involved. You have to understand that it may be something that's part of your life path to bring you a lesson you need to learn how to deal with these things in a way that can be more constructive than what you're afraid of. So again, of course, it will always depend upon the specific situation and the specific circumstances and conditions of that situation. Even though you have posed a general question, you have to look at the specifics of what's going on, who's involved, what it is they hope to gain, and all of those things in order to allow synchronicity to direct your attention to specifically what can be done and specifically what actions can be taken. But the only way you're going to receive that information is by, at the very least, remaining in a neutral state, if not fully a positive state, knowing that you will be given the information you need to move forward in a constructive and positive way to learn the lessons that need to be learned and allow for a more positive and constructive outcome for all concerned.
And also the idea of being under such a stressful situation, and then perhaps the person falls out of the neutral state and goes into a negative state. It seems like it's a lot about, is it controlling your thoughts, or what thoughts will you allow, or how can people navigate things where...
All right, well, watch your language and how you define that, because people do not fall out of states. They choose to be in one state or another, even if that choice is unconscious. So again, they have to get in touch with their belief systems as to why they would choose to go into a state that they don't prefer about it. The idea is, again, if you understand how things work, you will know that if you truly desire some kind of a positive outcome, then staying in the neutral or positive state is going to give you the best opportunity to do that. Choosing to go into a fear-based state will not. Therefore, why would you choose it if the outcome is so dire? If the need for the outcome being positive is so important, why would you choose to go into a state that reduces the probability of having a positive outcome? All that takes is an understanding of how energy works and staying in the energy state that increases the probability of a positive outcome.
So it has to do with your conviction of how things work.
It has to do with an understanding, if you want to call it conviction, fine, but a true understanding and a clear understanding of how you create your reality, what your life path choices are all about in terms of how it helps you learn and grow. You have to understand how it works. And when you understand how it works, no other choice but to stay in a neutral or positive state will make sense.